Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we've got a narrative that we're going to analyze that is so tightly constructed. It really functions as a masterclass in psychological control.
It really does. We're diving into the source material called The Silent Prescription. And our mission here isn't just to, follow the plot. We want to extract the actual mechanisms of manipulation.
The betrayal.
The betrayal that the protagonist, Clara, goes through. And the story gives us this perfect four-act structure. It's like a roadmap to understanding how isolation, medical gaslighting, all of it combines into this terrifying form of abuse.
And the payoff for you, the listener, is seeing exactly how she breaks that cycle. Because it really boils down to information, just hard, undeniable evidence that cuts through all the psychological conditioning. So we're going to trace her journey from what the sources call the fog all the way to aftermath. And we'll focus on the details that make this whole thing so hard to spot at first.
And one of the biggest ideas we have to get on the table right away is this concept of the helper trope.
Yeah.
Julian, the husband, the antagonist, he completely weaponizes this. He puts on this mask of the indispensable, dedicated caregiver to hide what he's actually doing.
So for Clara, the abuse wasn't some big, shocking event.
Not at all. It was slow poison, administered with a kind hand.
Okay, let's unpack that. Act 1, the setup in the fog. We meet Clara. She's in her 30s. She's an artist, so her whole life depends on clarity, on precision.
And she has none of that. She is profoundly struggling. Her symptoms are, they're debilitating. We're talking heavy, fatigued movements, this persistent brain fog, and a tremor in her hands.
Which for an artist is just devastating.
It makes her work impossible. The sources say she feels like she's disappearing. And Julian hasn't just isolated her. He's actually engineered her physical state to match his need for control.
And let's talk about that control. Julian, also in his 30s, a pharmaceutical researcher.
Yeah.
He plays the part of the perfect husband so well.
He's soft-spoken, he's calm, and he's always there, bringing her tea, bringing her these little dishes of what he calls her vitamins and supplements.
Right. It's that constant, gentle care that makes her dependent on him.
The environment is engineered, too. He's convinced her that the city was too much for you, so they moved. He cut her off from all her friends, her work. That isolation is the pressure cooker.
But hold on, if he's this high-level pharmaceutical researcher, this seems like a really high-risk way to control someone. I mean, sedatives, experimental blockers. He's risking her health, his entire career. Why go to that length?
That's a great question, and the sources really dig into that. It's this intersection of narcissism and professional entitlement. For Julian, it wasn't enough to just manage her.
He needed to be the one with the solution.
He needed to be the source of the solution. He used his specific knowledge, the supplements, the dosages, his connection to Dr. Aris, to build a system where her life was literally in his hands. He was the scientist, the doctor, and the husband.
So it wasn't just about keeping her still. It was about proving how smart and indispensable he was.
Exactly. And he uses that professional confidence when the first red flag pops up. Clara naturally suggests getting a second opinion.
From a city hospital.
And his calm exterior it frays a little. You can hear the tightness in his voice. He immediately shuts it down, says a stranger doesn't know your history.
He's reframing her wanting medical verification as a lack of faith in him.
He is. He pivots it right back to the relationship. He insists Dr. Aris is some kind of pioneer, that he's doing this work as a favor to him.
Making it sound special, exclusive.
And then he closes the trap. He just asks her, do you trust me? And once he's made questioning his judgment the same as questioning her love, well, he's won. She's in a fog, physically and mentally, so she defaults to trust.
The setup is complete. Which brings us to Act 2, the deception and the discovery.
Yes. Now we see how a part of the medical establishment gets pulled into this. We move to Dr. Aris's private clinic.
And a clinic itself.
Yeah.
It's described as cold, minimalist.
Right. It's meant to look prestigious, but it's really hiding a total lack of genuine care. Dr. Aris, he's a transactional doctor. It's about profit, not the Hippocratic oath.
So Clara comes in with these very real, very visible symptoms, the tremors, the vision loss.
Undeniable physical symptoms. But after the blood work, Dr. Aris just looks at her and says her blood work is clinically perfect.
Wow. That's the gaslighting right there.
It is the absolute peak of medical gaslighting. He's invalidating her physical reality. He tells her that her own body is lying to her. He diagnoses her with psychosomatic fatigue syndrome.
Essentially saying it's all in her head.
Your mind is refusing to let your body function. That's what he tells her. He's prescribing self-blame. He makes sure she stays passive, obedient. Because now she's afraid that Any resistance just proves she's mentally unstable.
And this is so important for you, the listener, to recognize. When a medical professional dismisses clear physical symptoms as just stress or anxiety, especially when it benefits a controlling partner, that's a huge red flag.
It is medical betrayal, and the practical result, he prescribes a much higher dose of the calmative.
And he makes sure Julian is the only one who can handle the refills.
The cage is locked. But this is where the story pivots. And it's so brilliant because the discovery is completely accidental. Clara goes back to the office just to get her scarf. The door is a little ajar.
And she overhears everything. It's this devastating moment of clarity. She hears Julian asking Aris if the dosage is high enough to keep the cognitive episode suppressed.
So she doesn't question the move or wander off. That one sentence confirms it was all intentional.
But then the stakes get even higher.
Much higher. Dr. Aris basically starts a countdown. He warns Julian that her liver enzymes are spiking. He says the damage will be irreversible by spring.
So this just went from emotional control to premeditated medical harm. A deadline.
And right on the heels of that warning, the narrative gives us the financial motive. Julian needs the damage to happen by spring because that's when the house sale is final, and he'll have her full power of attorney.
This wasn't just about control. This was financial assassination.
And the source material makes sure Clara gets hard, physical proof. She watches Julian slide a thick, leather-bound ledger across the desk.
Payment for Aris's discretion.
And inside that ledger is a signed contract. A contract for a clinical trial that Clara never, ever consented to.
So it wasn't even just a sedative. It was unauthorized medical experimentation.
And that ledger,
Yeah.
that is the most important thing in the whole story because it shifts everything for her. Before, all she had were feelings, tremors, self-doubt. Now, she has a contract. She has evidence of payment. She has a timeline for her own destruction.
She goes from confused patient to investigator in a single moment.
Because she finally has proof that can't be gaslit away.
Which just catapults us into Act 3, the confrontation and agency reclaimed.
And she doesn't wait. The scene is set that same night. Julian is just casually making her nightly tea, thinking his plan is working perfectly.
And Clara interrupts him. But what's so important is what she did between the discovery and this moment. She didn't just sit there in shock.
No, she took action. She went to the pharmacy in town, a legitimate one, and she showed them the vitamins.
That's the lesson right there. The speed. She went from emotional realization to concrete research.
The pharmacist confirms the truth, and it's shocking. These are heavy-duty sedatives and experimental blockers, the kind they use for patients who are, quote, difficult to manage.
She was being chemically subdued.
And you see her agency return not just in her words, but in her body. She tells him she hasn't taken the pills in 3 days. And then she delivers that line, "The fog is lifting, Julian."
Chills. That's the moment.
Oh,
She confirmed she saw the ledger. She knows he paid Aris to keep her a prisoner in my own body.
And the mask just shatters. Julian doesn't apologize. He defends himself. He says he did it to keep her from leaving him, from going back to the city, from having her career.
All the things that made her an independent person.
And that's when we get to his core motive. It wasn't just the money. That was secondary. His real desire was pure possessive control. He confesses, "I just wanted to make you stillness." A healthy, independent Clara with a career that threatens his identity as her savior. Her recovery would mean he's no longer needed, so he manufactured her illness to keep her dependent, passive, still.
And Clara's final line to him just, it strips away every last pretense of love. She says, "You didn't want a wife. You wanted a statue."
It's the perfect metaphor. A statue can't leave. It can't question. It's permanent, controllable, utterly dependent.
Which sets the stage for Act 4, aftermath and thematic takeaways. The sources jump forward a few months.
And the visual contrast is so powerful. We're not in that dim, isolated bedroom anymore. Clara is in a bright, sun-filled art studio, and she's painting.
Her hands are steady.
Her hands are steady. It's a physical manifestation of her regained control. She's on the phone with her lawyer, confirming the police have the records from Aris's office.
And crucially, they have the toxicology report from her blood work.
The scientific proof, the crime and the timeline, it's all there.
And her final reflection is the narrator. It's so cold and clear. She realizes Julian told her he loved her while he watched the light go out of my eyes. He called it protection.
But she names it for what it was, a cage.
This story just works so well because it gives these two really clear lessons.
The first is that danger of the helper trope. Julian's abuse was so hard to spot because it was hidden in plain sight, disguised as kindness. When you see someone whose entire self-worth seems to be wrapped up in someone else's neediness, that should be a huge analytical red flag.
And the second lesson is that difference between care and control. True love needs honesty, consent. Every act of care he gave her was poisoned by the fact that she had no agency.
Exactly. And we have to keep coming back to the turning point, the hard evidence, the ledger, the contract. A manipulator can dismiss your feelings, but they can't gaslight a toxicology report. That's what allowed her to move from being a victim to taking decisive action.
What a journey. From this debilitating illness and manipulation to physical freedom, legal freedom. This story is just an incredible blueprint for the value of skepticism and the absolute need to seek outside independent verification when something feels wrong.
And that brings us to our final thought for you, which comes directly from Clara's final resolution. She says, "I will never let someone else hold the pen to my story again." So we want you to think about that. Beyond these huge, obvious betrayals, what are the subtle ways we might let other people through misplaced trust or a desire for comfort hold the pen to our own agency? Where have you maybe ceded a little control because the alternative felt harder? And how can you today actively take that pen back?